Hey guys, JD here, and today we're going to be taking a look at my buddy Tommy's Yamaha GP1800 WaveRunner. He was having some problems out in the water, and I believed that they were all fuel related. So I want to show you a couple of the steps you can take on your Yamaha 1.8 naturally aspirated engine in order to check for potential fuel issues and some quick steps to resolve those. So for the full video, I highly recommend you check out Tommy T's Adventures. He's got an awesome YouTube channel, does a lot of PWC fishing, and a lot of riding on his Yamaha.
Alright, so a bit of a problem here. We were cruising along on the Intercoastal headed to Fort Pierce, and I was only getting about 65, so I thought I had it in slow mode. So when I stopped to check it, it was in normal mode. So I give it gas and it died, and now it won't start. It'll turn over, but it won't run. If I let it sit for a few minutes, it does run rough.
Basically, Tommy was out on the water, and tell me exactly kind of what happened here.
I was cruise control doing about 65, and I wanted to gun it wide open because I haven't done it in a while, and it wouldn't go faster. It was just sitting at 65, so I thought maybe I had it in slow mode. So I came to a stop, idled, went into my little dash there, and it was in normal mode. So I was like, huh. So I gunned it and it immediately died, and it wouldn't start after that. If I let it set for about 5 minutes, it'll run rough for about 10 seconds, 15 seconds, and then die. I thought it was maybe from my exhaust.
Wait, we got to check your exit. Oh, this right here.
This came off.
That's the clamp.
That's why it's running rough, probably, right?
Well, part of it.
It came off.
Water squirting into your hull everywhere?
No, it wouldn't run.
It still would have run with that. I think you have a little cut. That's another issue as well.
See, this clamp came off of here.
Yeah.
I can't.
Let me see that.
Too short.
So this is a perfect example of how it's not always one particular thing that could cause your ski to run rough or not run at all. In this case, the exhaust bellow popped off of the water box, and this was allowing steam and water to enter the hull. This probably contributed a lot to the fact that the ski wouldn't run.
So we're thinking maybe it's the fuel pump.
Yep, so there's a couple components you have on the Yamahas here when it comes to the fuel system. So many Yamaha WaveRunners include a fuel water separator. In this case, this is a fuel water separator, but it's on the vent line of the fuel tank. So if this is plugged up and there's gunk in there, then the tank won't be able to suck in any fresh air, and in turn it'll lock and not allow fuel to be pulled out of the tank at an adequate rate. When diagnosing issues like this, you want to check as many variables as you can. So we removed this filter here to check for gunk in it. The next step is we're going to check the pressure of the fuel pump. So we learned that this bowl is not supposed to have fuel in it on a regular basis, and when I was pulling the plug out, a bunch of crap did run out of it, darker looking, probably mostly water. So it's my estimation that that was getting mixed into the fuel, at least to a small degree. And you can see there's a jelly-like substance built up in this assembly there, which typically indicates the presence of fuel containing ethanol. We're gonna have to do, the filter is gonna look like someone dipped it in jelly.
Yeah.
It's gonna be completely clogged up. I bet you the pressure regulator, in the Yamaha, how it works is there's a regulator with a line running down to the pump. The pump's got a non-replaceable filter on it. So here's a look at the non-replaceable filter element that comes stock in pretty much every fuel-injected Yamaha WaveRunner sold today. This element can only be cleaned. It's not available for sale as an individual part. Yamaha was so gracious as to not sell that part. All right, before you service the fuel system, always remember to pop the cap here and bleed off any residual pressure. All right, so typically what you want to do in the first scenario is you want to pull this lead off of the fuel pump here, this electrical lead, right?
Okay, yep.
And then you want to try to fire up the engine. That's to bleed any pressure out of the line so it doesn't squirt all over the place. There's no fuel pressure in this right now. So if you look down here, I'll show you how you get this off. So these are delicate. These will pop off and go into your hull and you'll lose them.
It's that little green.
Yeah, this little green thing here. So I'm going to show you a trick. It's harder with gloves, but I've done this plenty of times, so I'm going to show you. All right, so the key is you want to take your two index fingers like this. It's easier without the gloves, but I'm going to show you. So you put them on either side here, and you pull up very gently with finesse like that. Okay. Don't expect to do it that smoothly your first time.
Okay.
All right, so then this is your fuel rail assembly here. You can see there's this little rubber damper holding it to the rail. Then what you want to do is take your fingers like this, make a pinching motion. Don't pull on the fuel line, whatever you do. Hold it by, you can see my fingers here are on these clamps.
Yep.
And then use your other two fingers
to pry it off.
To push it off.
I heard
there's a little bit of fuel pressure in there. So I'm going to put this rag and let it bleed off. Okay, there we go. So now I'm just going to remove this little damper for now. And again, this thing will pop off and go into your bilge and be lost forever. All right, so here we have a fuel pressure test rig. Yamaha and Kawasaki, obviously Japanese engineering, they're identical. Most of the systems are the same. So what this is going to do here is we're going to put this T, we're literally going to connect the stock fitting right here, push that on, lock it, check. And then this line here is just, it doesn't really matter how you do it, but we're just going to go ahead and loop that back around. And then we're going to go ahead and push that down like that.
Into the fuel rail.
Into the fuel rail. Yamaha's been using this 1.8 for quite some time. So I don't have a physical service manual, but I do have it on my phone. So here we're looking at our fuel pressure test specifications from the factory. And the factory's telling us that the fuel pressure without the engine running, now they say start the engine, allowed to warm up for 5 minutes. Obviously in our scenario, that's not going to happen. Yep. Our fuel pressure should be between 49 and 52 PSI when we power up the ski. So here's a gauge, Tommy, if you want. Yep. Let's pump should come on.
It's up there.
Our pressure has reached the specified factory 49.1 to 52. It's right there. So keep in mind that this fuel pump is cool. It is still possible that after the fuel pump heats up, it will still fail. In this case, that's not something we could determine right now. So this right here is called, it's Husky K100. And you see this here, stabilizes fuel, eliminates water and fuel, injectors. So this is the only product on the market that I've ever used that actually will fix fuel that has already phase separated, fuel containing ethanol. Now in Tommy's case, he filled his ski with fuel from the gas station. The ski sat for about a week, so that fuel has phase separated in the tank, causing many of the fuel issues that he was seeing out on the water.
Yeah.
How much fuel you have in here?
Full tank.
Full tank?
Yep.
I'm gonna put some of this in there for you. If you're ever, you got to buy some of this if you're storing the ski with ethanol containing fuel. If you pour this treats 64 gallons.
Oh, okay.
So I get like 3 cycles. If I have any fuel, I splash this in after every. Okay. This stuff is incredible.
So the whole bottle would be 64 gallons.
Yeah, and they sell it in smaller bottles. That it's actually, when I just get the pack. It's like 6 smaller bottles, and I just keep it in the ski, and literally I'll use, 1 bottle for each ride. It's a little bit more than you need, but it doesn't hurt. All right, so we've been idling a little bit here. You see we're running at like 52 PSI, which is spot on the money. We drained a bunch of crap out of the separator. We added probably like 12 ounces of K100 fuel treatment to the tank.
Right.
I think if this would have sat any longer, you would have had some real issues with the injector and the pump, but I'm gonna say that just cleaning the filter and the regulator and going through it, and then replacing
and your breather. Yeah,
so your breather, the filter, a couple things were going wrong here, and I think all those combined were contributing to the ski not running right. The oil looked clear, no water in the oil, no milkiness. Our pressure has been absolutely perfect, which even leads me to believe that the filter itself might be fine, but of course that sustained higher pressure, it might start to drop a little bit. So only when we get the ski out on the water and run it hard at sustained full throttle will we know if the pump is functioning normally. There is the potential that the ethanol containing fuel gummed up the filter here. In that case, Tommy's only option will be to clean the filter manually or replace the entire pump assembly at a cost of about $1,200. Well, with that K100 in there, that's going to break up any of that gum.
That scared you?
Pump is fine. These test leads, you can purchase this for Yamaha, Kawasaki, and like every single Japanese motorcycle made in the last like 30 years will use these same style connectors. You basically, if you're doing your own work, gotta have one of these for a fuel injected vehicle. Okay, then I'm gonna show you a little trick. So take a little bit of grease, okay, just like this, and dab it onto
the nipple there.
Right there. You could also use motor oil.
Okay.
Or two-stroke oil. Yamaha tends to over-engineer stuff sometimes.
That can be a good and bad thing.
Good and bad, yeah. No, they make. I would happily buy another Yamaha. All right, so you slide that back on like that. Push that down, then always check it to make sure it's in place. Okay, there we go. Hear that click?
Yep. Click.
So you can see this here, this connector, especially a ski that's using salt water. So see that factory grease on there?
Yep.
But see how that seals, actually there's a little bit of rust in there?
Yeah, I see that.
So guess what we're gonna do, Tommy?
You're gonna brush your famous stuff on there.
Anyone that knows me, that's ever seen me work on a ski, will know that I literally, and this corrosion block grease is a dielectric grease, so It's safe to do this with. You got your fuel rail reconnected. We check it again, it's tight. We got the damper back in place.
You got the lead back on the fuel pump.
There's two leads, one for the sender, one for the pump. Those are both reconnected. We added some dielectric grease to the one just to make sure no water gets in there. All right, you're clear. We have the water ready to go. It's not on. You can't say this enough. Never turn on the water. I've seen YouTube videos.
Yeah.
There was one I watched the other day. Some big channel. The guy's like got 1 million followers. He picked up a Kawasaki stand-up. He turns on the water and he's trying to get it running, and the thing had been sitting, and I'm just like watching it like, oh. So always start the engine on any Sea-Doos we're not going to talk about because those you can't really run out of the water. But the Yamahas and Kawasaki's, Japanese skis, always start the engine before turning on the water. All right, public service announcement. So in this case, Tommy had a couple things wrong with his ski. One of them was that his Riva breather bypass assembly, the filter had failed, and also one of his hose clamps on his exhaust had failed. Sounds good.
Yeah. Get that out.
What you want to do as well is the next time, like if you go out, you fix that stuff, go out for a test.
Now, while this video included a quick inspection of some critical fuel components, ultimately, in this case, and even though the pump passed the pressure test, ideally, we'd want to remove the pump from the ski and check the regulator and the filter as I showed earlier. Once we get the ski out on the water, we'll see if it runs maintained full throttle without any issues.
So I'm so glad I called JD because he's a man that knows everything about jet skis.
Thanks, Tommy. I definitely don't know everything about jet skis, but we could say I know enough.
All I'll tell you is I like to buy the best, right? Yamaha, Kawasaki, the engineering is there. If the Sea-Doo was the best, I'd buy one. I mean, that's what I tell people.
And you heard that from JD Romero.
If you enjoyed this video, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing for more exclusive jet ski content, only on JD's Water World.